everyone, and welcome to a weirdly strange start to a Rocky Mountain Cigar Show here. I am actually getting everything set up for my new studio layout. And of course, the one piece that was supposed to be here was not. So as I'm bumbling and fumbling around here tonight, just understand I apologize, and we'll try to get to your comments. Your comments are going to be all the way on the other side of the room right now. So, but either way, we are here, and we are going to have a great time tonight. So I got to get used to actually looking this direction now, as this is where my camera is. This is going to be a new setup for me. I hope everybody can at least hear me okay. All right. So again, I apologize. I might not be as on top of the comments tonight just because it's on the other side of the room and I'm looking over here. So without further ado, and my sweaty ass, my God. You know why I'm sweating? Because of who we're having on tonight. Not only is he a good-looking guy, and I'll say that, but he lives in Florida, and before the show, he's talking about how wonderful the weather is. I just came from Florida. Everybody on my trip was delayed, but me, my friend Jeff, and Laura, because of all the crazy rainstorms over at TGS. I'm sweating just thinking about being in Florida again. So let's go ahead and bring in the man of the hour tonight, George Rico. All right. Why is this not, let's see over here. Oh my God. How you doing, George?
I'm doing all right. Good evening.
Good evening
I'm watching
to
you
you,
fumble
brother.
around. So.
Oh my God, man. I've been out here for the last 2 hours trying to get this whole thing set up. And I didn't even realize. I looked down at the clock and I'm like, holy shit, show's about to start. So, without...
Well, same with me, so don't worry about it. I was setting up.
Well, George, I am smoking the El Amingo. Am I pronouncing that correct?
The El Enemigo. Enemigo.
Yeah, I will let you say it because I'm way too white, and I butcher non-Spanish words. I butcher regular words that I should know.
Yeah.
So, what are you smoking tonight? As we kind of jump into the only segment of the show that we do, which is sponsored by Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. What are you smoking tonight?
Good cigars, Dunbarton. So I'm trying one of the samples that I did on the Omega that's going to be released. So this was the Omega 2, and that's all I got. It's number 2 blend. So it was one of the blends that I worked on recently for the cigar for the PCA trade show. So that's going to be coming out at the show.
Oh, fantastic. Tell everybody what I'm smoking. When did this come out? And what's the importance of it?
All right, so that cigar came out in 2024. That's the El Enemigo. It's my first cigar out of my factory. First cigar and only cigar that I produced ever out of our factory. That was out of Dominican Republic. And it's a very special cigar. It's a combination of both Nicaraguan and Dominican tobaccos, and the blend is done by the great people at Davidoff, and it's a great tasting cigar. I think they did a phenomenal job. It's one of their factories in the Dominican Republic, and I think it's just a wonderful tasting smoke with a lot of flavor. A little bit of pepper, a little bit of spice, but I like that about that cigar.
No, it's a fantastic stick, and it smokes flawlessly as well. Thank you so much, Steve Saka, for sponsoring the "What Are You Smoking Tonight" segment of the show here. So this came out, you said 2024, right?
I believe so. Yeah, it came out 2024 at PCA trade show. Now, actually, it was TPE then PCA. Yeah, close enough time.
Now, what was the idea of going over to Davidoff for it? Because this is the only cigar you've made. And last week I put my foot in my mouth and was wrong left and right. Is this the only Davidoff cigar you have that are made in their factory?
Yes, that is the only cigar that I've made out of my factory.
Yeah.
I've never, all my projects have been out of my factory. But this one in particular, was a great time, great opportunity, and I wanted to take the chance to work on something different. It's in a process that I kind of stopped right now because of the fact that, with Nicaragua Honduras kind of transitioning, I wanted it to expand what called my learning phase, which was essentially traveling to other factories, doing projects, learning the blending process from the other manufacturers that they do compared to what I do, and kind of matching the two and then creating projects around that. So it's something that I still want to continue to do, but it's not something that I'm currently focusing. I'm just focusing on what I'm doing out of our factory.
I'm getting a report here saying that you're coming through scratchy in your audio.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it might be your
Okay.
headphones.
You want to take them off?
Yeah, let's see how that sounds. Oh, we got it. You got to change the microphone to your phone. Uh, there we go. Now that's much better.
Now that's much better.
Oop,
Can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
I can, yeah.
There's
Hold
a
on.
little
I
echo
think
behind me.
echo behind me. Yeah, no, that's me. I got a sound bar that's on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you don't want me on surround sound. Good lord. Oh, I can't get you anymore. Um, I had you. Uh, all right, now we've got the speak. Now we got your microphone. Are you good?
Yeah, no, I'm good.
That's flawless. That's perfect. So it was just the headphones for some reason were
Oh,
making it
I'm
a little
sorry,
choppy.
guys.
Oh,
This is
dude,
my
don't worry
setup
about it.
too.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, talk about setups, dude. I was the one sweating my ass off before the show, just trying to get and I want to look over here because my screen is over here, and I'm not used to not looking at my screen, and I feel like I'm in a news conference. I'm just looking at nothing. But so, anyways, let's get back to this because this was a first for you outside of your factory in general. Um,
Correct.
why go with Davidoff for this? And after we're going to go into this cigar, we'll go into the new stuff for PCA in a couple weeks.
Yeah. No, like I was mentioning, I mean, I think it was that approach of me traveling, visiting other factories, learning their process, mashing that with what I currently do, uh, that I've learned to do at our factory, and that being the case, I essentially got an opportunity to work with them, and I jumped on it. I mean, how can you say no, right? So that was kind of my approach, just making sure that their techniques, their manufacturing capabilities, with just sort of a little bit of my blending approach to using some of their tobaccos in my tobaccos.
Now, with a company like Davidoff, like, would you say you jumped at the opportunity? That's like playing inside the elite circle, quote unquote. I'll be upfront with you. I'm not a big Davidoff smoker, part and parcel because they are very expensive, but more so because they're too mild for me 99% of the time. So, what made this like a great experience for you? Was it just because you got to say you worked with Davidoff and kind of scratch that off the bucket list, or was this something you actually like really
No,
truly went
no. I
after?
mean, essentially, I mean, we never sold it as manufactured by them, blended by me. Essentially, that was not my approach. My approach was to let the brand itself develop. I think, I'm sharing that with you now that the project's been going on for a number of years, but the reality was that it was kind of more of, I mean, they're an institution,
Oh, for sure, for sure.
and if you go see their processes, their systems of manufacturing, on selecting the tobacco, the weighing, all the different process, the way the cigars are finished, I think it's very particular to what they make, and then based on that, it was something alien to me, seeing it. And I think that's the whole reason for the project. I mean, you just really kind of continuing my education, because everybody makes cigars different. You could give everyone the same tobacco, cure it differently. They could cure it differently and still manufacture a different product using the same tobacco if you shared it with different factories. It's just everybody has their own unique way of doing it. And that's kind of my approach. I mean, I just want to continue to extend or continue my education really. That's what it comes down to. To me, this is a passion. It's a life. Tobacco leaves. It's kind of something that I'm very dear because of what growing up in the industry. And so based on that, I really care to know everything, and I don't know everything. So that's kind of where I'm going.
Well, and it gives, if you've got so many years in this industry. What are you at? You're what? How many years
20,
now? 20,
28 years.
28
28 years.
years. Your
Yeah.
knowledge is extensive, and that's why I wanted to ask about the Davidoff side, because after 28 years, instead of saying I know everything, go pound sand, I can't learn anything from anybody else, you actually took it upon yourself to go outside of your factory, first time ever, 28 years outside of your factory, and kind of put yourself out there a little bit, and
Yeah.
took a gamble on a different. Now, granted, you didn't take a massive gamble in the sense that you knew it was going to be a good tobacco, right? So, but
Mhm.
you took a gamble on another factory, and you did it from a learning experience. Is that a fair thing to say?
100%. I mean, overall, I don't think you should never think that you know everything. And even if you know a lot, I don't think the way you're doing it sometimes, there's always another way of doing things. And so the reality is that, working with different people, seeing how their approach to cigar manufacturing is compared to what I grown up in and learned throughout the process of being in the industry. That's sort of where I feel that it's to extend my knowledge. And so, I just really honestly, even then, I don't even think I know 50% of what's more to learn out there. It's always a learning process. There's something new, different techniques. I've been taught uh, by a lot of great a lot of great manufacturers from the past that growing up in the industry, from Humberto Oliva Sr. to even some of the new guys that have come afterwards. There's a lot of knowledge that's been imparted. I've always been one of those that like I seek information, knowledge, and they passed on a lot of knowledge. Even having spent very little time, but talking to Don Pepin Garcia, the chances that I've had, Ernie from EPC Senior. It's just kind of one of those things that I've been able to really hone in on asking the right questions to sort of solve some of my problems as I've progressed in the industry.
And that's kind of one of the fun things I've always appreciated about you as a person is you're 28 years in. You go to you go to a professor 28 years, or even a doctor 28 years, they're gonna be the worst patient in the world, But it shows that you were able to be a quote unquote patient, but to study still and learn beyond that 28 years. You've never lost that humbleness to you,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
inside the industry, and that's something I've always really appreciated, and just getting to know you and just literally talk. By the way, anybody, I'm just gonna throw this out there: don't park in this man's parking lot at his work. However, if you do, don't worry, it'll get taken care of. I got a parking ticket because it was in the wrong, not a parking ticket, but like a warning,
A sticker.
sticker warning on my window, and he put out the heat gun and took it off and went to the person next door. I was like, come on, dude, like come over and say something. Anyways, but I tell you what, if you want some great Cuban food, oh, forget about it. George will show you the town.
I
Um,
appreciate it. Thank you.
but no,
Not
it's
being
always.
Colombian, I mean being Colombian, but the Cubans do have some great food. So it's a dying art here in Miami, unfortunately, I think.
And the place you took me to was not like the greatest of areas, at least the way it looked, but the inside of it was super nice. You had said it had been there for like 30, 40 years or something. Like the guy that was our waiter was your waiter, or like you grew up, he grew up there or something like that.
Yeah, no, I grew up going to that particular restaurant a lot. I mean, I live and die by Molina's restaurant, Molina's Ranch in Hialeah. That's my spot,
Oh, it was
and I'll take
fantastic.
that as long as I can. So
It was absolutely fantastic. So the reason why I wanted to start out with the whole Davidoff thing is because I love the fact that you did a branch out. I love the fact that you were not too bullish to be willing to learn something from it. So over the last 2 years, what are we looking at now this year at PCA? What are we looking to get this year? And I know you had texted me something. I don't know if I'm allowed to show that.
well, we worked on well, I worked on a couple projects this year. Something that I'm really excited about is the Neo Omega from the Persian King. I think that's kind of one of the cigars that people know that we make it. And when I say we, Gran Habanos, and it's a project that has been very successful over the years. And I wanted to continue to extend and play with that brand. So the Omegas are coming out. It's kind of something that I've been wanting to work on for the last 5 years, but I haven't been able to put it into the portfolio, into the calendar. But I did work on the blends throughout the course of that time. So it's been on the back burner, back and forth, and then that's going to be showing at the factory. I mean, at the PCA this year. Actually, if you're a retailer and you get an opportunity to go to the party in New Orleans at PCA in April, you're gonna get one of those cigars, which is a limited edition 7x46 Corona Gorda, which I call the Corona Special, right? And so that blend, which is this one, not this one, but this size, I should say. I'm sorry. It's what people are gonna get at the party, and it's gonna be an interesting cigar. I hope they like it.
May I show the picture you sent me or no?
Sure. I
You
mean,
have the
I
two
don't know which
Omegas
picture.
side by side,
Oh, the
banded.
presentation. Yeah, I mean, we did the. I think the press release has gone
Okay,
out.
okay.
Yeah,
I
you
just
can
wanted to
share that.
make
Yeah,
sure. I thought so,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I just wanted to. So in case anybody missed it, this is the presentation for the Omega. I love that gold
Oh, I did
purple
share those. Okay, that's the
over
final
underband.
product. Yeah.
Well, no, this is what you sent me. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, no, I hadn't shared that with anybody, but just everyone in the office. So, all right, cool.
Okay,
You
okay.
got the
So
final
so, so there
the
we
final
go.
presentation on it. Yeah.
So everyone got to see it here first. So you get to see the final presentation, and I tell you, it is gorgeous looking. My camera, for some
Appreciate it.
reason, is not showing it the way I want it to, but there you go. You can kind of see a little bit of that gold and purple band. Very,
Yeah.
very nice. I'm excited to smoke it. What sizes are we looking at here in this?
Well, uh, people are gonna get to sample it for with a 7x48, 47x46, I should say. But realistically, there's only going to be one size, a 6x54 Toro that we make, what we call the Gran Robusto.
Yep.
It's not called that at the in the box. It's just called the Omega, but it's a 6x54 Toro.
And
That's the
what
size that people are going to be able to have access to.
and what makes this cigar your cigar release this year? What makes this wood so special for you?
Well, it's a project that I've been wanting to do for quite some time. I mean, I think it's sort of an extension of the Zulu Zulu project. It's kind of cigars that I make for myself. So we had the Zulu Zulu, we had the Omega Omega now, and so it's blends that I kind of been that I've had in the back burner that I've been working on developing throughout the course. I wanted to bring it as an STK, but essentially I thought it would be kind of cool to transfer that over into the Persian King line. So it's truly an STK technically, part of my, which is everything that I make for myself. But I wanted to put it into that Persian King and put a first band on it. Persian King does not come with a band; has a very
Does
particular
not.
finish to it. Yeah, it's just it sells without a band, and I think that's goes to my whole thing. I know a lot of guys go out there and buy,
It's a closed foot too.
not this one,
No,
but the Persian
no,
King is. Yeah,
yeah, the
yeah,
Persian King. Yeah, it's a
yeah,
two
yeah.
two color wrapper
Yeah,
Short, different color on the foot, maybe half inch
yeah,
up off the foot with a closed foot.
yeah. So you get a little bit of that Connecticut finish with the blend, and then it goes on to the regular wrapper, which is a natural material. So I thought it would be kind of fun to play with that. Just extend on the Persian King. I did do something a couple years ago, which was the Tide Mod 60, which was a 60 modified where you could smoke on either end. So you could V cut it on one end and smoke it, and the blend would actually change depending on how you smoked it on either end. So
Okay.
those are kind of like SDK projects that I've been sprinkling throughout all my portfolios. So those are kind of the extensions of that.
Oh, fantastic! That I see. This
Yeah,
is. It's gonna be a fun. It's gonna be a fun line for it. I'm really excited to try it.
yeah.
Is this gonna be a release after PCA, or is this gonna be like a midsummer, end of summer release?
It's gonna be a release probably midsummer.
Okay.
Right now, we just finished the packaging not that long ago. So, and then the production was started at the end of last year. So they'll come out when the cigars are about 6 months. I usually
Okay.
let the cigars rest for 6 months, so the production will come out sometime in June.
Okay. Awesome.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Yep.
And what's MSRP on this?
MSRP on this is 8.96, I believe. So it's under $9. So you get a premium cigar for a reasonable price, and that's always been sort of my motto. I want to make sure that the customer gets the best product for the price.
Sure.
It's kind of something that I built my company around, and it's something I'm very proud. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a consumer, and I think of the consumer all the time. So for me, it's kind of important that there's no frills to the Persian King because the packaging is very simple, but it's a statement that you're not buying a golf bag or an ashtray to get cigars. I want you to buy the cigar because you like the cigar, and at the end of the day, that's what really kind of what I focus on.
Actually, I think it was the Persian King because I've reviewed 3 or 4 of yours long time ago, right? Because I haven't done reviews in forever, and I actually just got. I was trying to find the comment. I just got a hit on one of them. I think it was the Persian King. We're like, oh, I'm going out and buying this right now. I can't. I was trying to find the comment for it, um, but yeah, I mean they're obviously still moving really well, but it's always interesting to me like with the first time people hear of Gran Habano because you have been around for 28 years.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's kind of one of those things that surprises me because as a consumer, and if you really are a cigar smoker that you want to dive into the culture, I would think that I get very surprised because I would think you go and do your research. But at the
Sure.
same time, I do like the fact that people explore and see these blends that exist. So having been around as long as we have, it's a blessing. I think we're doing everything the way we're doing. I think we're doing everything that we're doing right. That being said, that's the Persian King, right?
That's the
Yeah.
Persian. Yep.
So based on that, I just really kind of would never like to hear that because there's a lot of other smaller brands or bigger brands. It's funny. I had this conversation with some of the guys over there, and it's funny. I can't say who it was, but it was a very big company, and you were smoking their cigar, and they told me that they found customers. They met customers at events that had never heard of their brand, and you would think that particular brand would be known because to me, it's kind of if you compare it to cars, it's like a Bentley, right? Um, and it was kind of one of the things that consumers sometimes go in, explore, find cigars. They get introduced to cigars based on who's what people are carrying in their stores, but then don't do the research of the legacy brands that are out there. So I do
No.
hear that, and it's fine. I think overall, I'm okay with that. I think the excitement is when they try my cigars and hopefully they enjoy them, and then I did my job.
Well, it's also got to be. It's a double-edged sword, right? Oh, I've never heard of your brand. You've been around how long? And then, oh, sure, try it. Oh my gosh, this is fantastic. I can't believe I've never heard of your. It's kind of a double edged. You like to hear the, oh my gosh, it's fantastic. I can't believe I've never heard of you before. But it does kind of throw you off a little bit to hear that I've never heard. Does that kind of make sense what I'm saying?
It used to when I was younger and I didn't have a response to it. But as you're out there and you're meeting people and you're kind of understanding where they come from, I usually just ask certain questions like how long have you been smoking for? Um, do you kind of do a little bit of research on what's out there? Because I mean, ultimately, if you haven't heard of some of the brands that are out there, um, then you really haven't kind of explored or done your research to really appreciate what you're doing. And this is something that goes to the manufacturing aspect, the
Correct.
farming process. I think when you dive into something as any consumer that appreciates things, they really get into the weeds of things. And
Yeah.
these are typically people that are not, they're novice, right? And that's okay. Not even novice, beginners, but that's okay. That's not an issue. I think at the end of the day, we have been lucky to build a really good following. I
Mm-hmm.
think Gran Habanos has a very cool cult following. And for the limited production compared to some of the bigger brands, we perform really, really well. And believe it or not, it's funny. A lot of customers will tell me, well, a lot of consumers, I should say, will tell me that I was the first cigar they got onto smoking.
Croho Five
And
probably too.
Aurora 5, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And to me, it's kind of like I did my job. I got more people onto cigar smoking and to appreciate the culture, the tradition, and everything that goes around the process of smoking cigars, which they maybe don't appreciate, because the reality is that I tell people that cigar smoking, we're technically doing what the natives 500 years ago were doing. When we go to cigar stores, we're all sitting around the campfire, smoking cigars,
Mm-hmm.
talking, interacting. We're doing exactly what the natives were doing 500 years ago before
Yep.
Columbus came.
Oh
And so
yeah.
essentially, we're maintaining the culture. We're maintaining the essence of cigar smoking. And if I could help in any way possible, that's what I'm looking forward to.
So as you're set up for your new release here, which is coming out in June. You said this was a several year project for you. How many years was it
Mm-hmm.
again?
Five,
5 year project.
5 years. Yes.
Explain to everybody, because I feel like some people go 5 year project to develop a cigar. Like really, explain to everybody what that means when somebody in the industry says I've been developing this cigar for 5 years or whatever. At least in your essence of it.
Well, it's kind of interesting because this is a cigar that's very, very, very interesting for us. And the reason why it's 5 years is because I started the blend originally in with Nicaraguan tobacco. But in essence, we started farming in Honduras. So our factory has always been in Honduras, as long as my father established a factory back in 1995 in Honduras. But we started farming back in 1999 in Nicaragua, in Jalapa. That being said, we've always utilized Nicaraguan tobacco. Predominantly 90% of our blends, 95% of our blends have Nicaraguan tobacco if you look at the makeup of Gran Habanos. So this is a project that originally started with the blend being similar to what we were doing, but around 2003, 2004, since I was playing with the blend, I wasn't very happy with where we were, where I was with the blend.
Now hold on. I'm going to
And
stop you. I'm going to stop you right there because I want to kind of explain what you mean by you weren't happy. You weren't happy with the ratio. You weren't happy with the tobacco. What weren't you happy about?
I just wasn't happy with how the tobaccos were interacting. So in essence, placement is important,
Sure.
and that's more of an active, a more in-depth approach to it. The placement of the tobaccos that I wanted to use, the different grades, where Viso, Seco, Volado, the wrapper, double binder. I played around a lot with the construction of the cigar and the materials that I was using, but I always kept going to being very similar to some of the other projects that I've done, and I wanted to get away from that. So around 2022, we started a project of farming in Honduras. 2021, right after COVID, 2021, 22, we started farming, playing around in my dad's farm in Nicaragua, in Honduras. And then around, we scheduled to start really a bigger production of farming in Honduras, which, by the way, going back to what I was saying, we've never utilized Honduran tobacco in any of our blends, even though we're in Honduras. So
Okay.
that kind of sparked the interest of me now going back and utilizing all Honduran tobaccos when, from three different seeds to create this blend. And I think kind of does come through as something very different from what Gran Habano is known for. And so then I started playing with the blending of the tobacco when it was ready. It takes about 2 years for the tobacco to start aging correctly. I started utilizing that, and I really kind of got onto the process of, I really love the taste, the sweetness, and I was chasing that sweetness, that aroma. And this cigar really has a lot more aroma, complexity, and sweetness, natural sweetness. That's what I was looking for. So I wasn't looking for something overly spiced. I wasn't looking for something bitter or peppery or any of these flavors that might give you a lingering kind of sourness. If I could use that term, I don't like
Mhm.
that term, but it's something that I kind of worked on because I've been chasing sweetness, natural sweetness for years. And I think the cigar kind of hits it, and it's the tobacco that we're farming in new fields, same seeds, but only it's a different country, new valley, and it's just a different experience altogether. So it's kind of something very unique.
Now, how many over 5 years, if you had to put a number on it, how many samples have you made before you were like, this is it? Hundreds?
Um, no, no, I wouldn't say hundreds, but close to maybe like more than 60 different
Okay.
blends throughout the
Okay.
course. I
Okay.
mean, the thing is, one blend, you start with one blend, you'll smoke it now, you'll smoke it 6 months,
Hmm.
you'll smoke it 7 months, 8 months, 10 months, and then you go, no, this was not the way to go. It just didn't age right. And then you start over. So that process, so I'm making cigars every month with the same blend, just changing, seeing how they age, and then playing with. There's things where sometimes you start a blend and you think you're going somewhere and then it just dies out, and then you just got to start it from the beginning again. So that's kind of it's
That's got to
it's
be
interesting
frustrating.
because it is, because that's when I take a timeout, and so I'll take like a few months. No, I do. I mean, because it's like you can't force it
No,
either,
you can't.
and so because you'll go crazy and then you'll start making cigars that just don't make any sense because you're trying to put half a leaf of this, a full
Hmm.
leaf of that, a quarter leaf of this, and then at the end of the day you're just like, now you don't have a strategy or a formula that you want to develop. You're just kind of now, you're in the midst of being stuck somewhere, and then now you're just trying to force it, and that's where I don't want to be.
So, do you do you continue to look for the keys that once you found them? And what I mean by that is, do you go, oh, I love it, but let's try these two as
Hmm.
well? So, do you continue to go, this is my number one, but let's smoke some more and see where that turns out?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That's exactly what happened with this project. So the final versions of it were five different blends. It ended up being six blends, seven blends, seven blends, because then I did a 4-1. So I ended up picking four, and the four was the one I was stuck on. I thought it was delicious. Um, and so I did one, which this is one, then two, three, four, five, and then we did a six, and then we did a 4-1, going back to like if I change 4-1 finally. And then I didn't like 4-1, and then I picked four. So that's kind of like, yeah. So the final version of the blends were, one was a little bit heavier than the other, and so they progress as strengths. So more Visto on one, more Seiko on another one, more Ligero on another one, and then I alternated and made worked with the different blends. So It's very technical, maybe for some of the people to understand, but it was that's kind of how I work
Well,
between
you're
three.
explaining it really well.
Okay, well,
You're
as long as I get
yeah,
across right.
yeah, you're explaining
All right.
essentially. You smoked 7 blends. Number 4 is what you settled on, but you continued to play to see if you could enhance it, make it better. But you still came back to number 4 out of the 7 blends as the pick. So
Yeah.
effectively, did you just set yourself up for another release then? Like, is it within this series with that? I mean, I'm not trying to ask you to give
No, no, no,
information
no.
away.
Well, yeah. I look. So I'm smoking two, and one blew me away again. After not smoking it for about a month, I went back to one, and I think one's a great cigar. I mean, it's just flawless, but it was a little bit more aromatic and very mellow, which was intended on purpose, right? So one was supposed to be mild, medium on the two, three was medium to full. For what the blend is, they're still not. They're more in a medium at most. So the four is a medium at most. And if people that smoke my cigars will understand that I never chase strength.
No, you don't.
I chase flavor and complexity. I think the probably the strongest and more robust blend that I've ever produced is actually the one you're smoking, the El Enemigo,
Hmm.
and that's using tobaccos that I don't farm and Dominicans that were interesting. But overall, I really, really, really like to focus more on the depth of the flavors in the tobacco, and the complexity of and the nuances of the tobacco when you're smoking it quietly, and then really kind of understanding what the blend's doing, because you're putting leaves with different grades, different varieties of leaves, and then you're putting them together, and they're burning evenly on a cigar that's handmade. So you're
Hmm.
essentially having uh, disruptions in the way the tobacco is put together because it's manually made.
Yeah.
So there might be smaller pockets in the complex and the consistency of that still is so interesting because it's burning evenly at the same time, and then they're interacting with each other to create these flavors that we're looking for. So I mean, it's more technical, but yeah, that's the approach that I take.
No, I love it because you could also really get super technical and break down to pH soil levels and everything else, and that's
Yeah,
where you're glazed over. But it's to me, and I feel that if it's interesting to me, that it's got to be interesting to other people because we don't really get a lot of insight. There's not a lot of insight given into picking blends. Like you always hear, I've smoked this blend, but it's never like I made 7, I went to 4, I continued, or I made 4, loved it, I continued on. So it's always really interesting how different manufacturers come up with different blends and what their process is. So does that mean out of the 6 additional blends, are we potentially, and please don't give away if you don't want to, potentially, are we going to see those blends down the road? Like is that kind of how you vision having that
yeah.
many blends is just later releases?
So um, at the end of the day, my daughter's looking at me, so I thought it was funny. Anyway, so point being is, at the end of the day, yes, there's a couple projects that I think are worth looking at from this project because the Omega project was so unique, and because we switched over to finally all Honduran tobacco. So we're making there's a genesis from leaving Nicaragua for political reasons and instability reasons, and then now really creating something unique and different out of Honduras, where we were as a factory, but not as a farmer. And so there is a couple really good blends out of it. I really will maybe play around with it a little bit more. But number one blew me away because of the simplicity and the mildest, but the aroma and flavors that were coming out of the cigar, and then that natural sweetness that I've been chasing for so long. So yeah, there's a couple projects. I do have something that I don't have a problem sharing. I have a project that's going to come out later on in a few
Wait, wait, wait,
years.
wait, wait, wait. They have a little bit of fun, right? So go ahead.
All right. So um, I'm working on a project called The Witch's Brew. As many people know that I'm a huge jazz fan, and I've always been a fan of Miles Davis. And
Hmm.
so in homage to the
Blue and
Witch's
green.
Brew, the blue and green, I'm doing the Witch's Brew. And
Ooh.
essentially, it's going to be a release for my birthday. I don't know if a lot of people know my birthday's on Halloween,
Mhm.
and we're going to do 13 releases. 12 of them are going to come out throughout the course of maybe 7 years. But essentially, it's going to be limited production cigars. And then this is going to be the extension of me traveling and learning, that continuation of that education. So the Witch's Brew is creating these really unique blends at a different. I'm having fun with it, right? As I'm getting older, you got to have fun with it. But they're essentially ingredients to the brew, and so we're going to be releasing those later on, and that's something that I'm going to start working on probably for the end of this year.
Fantastic. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when you say limited production release, are you referring
Mhm.
to like limited yearly or limited release total?
Both limited release totals and limited release years. So, in essence, I do want to create between, I originally wanted to do 17, but I think it's going to be too long of because this is a really long process. And so, in essence of that is going to be part of my SDK, uh, the Witch's Brew project. And in essence, we'll see how long we can keep it going. I mean, this is in part continuing education for me with blending and making cigars and traveling. And I'm going to bring the consumer with me as I develop these projects. So it's going to be interesting. There's more to it, but hopefully they'll understand once they start to see the first releases coming out.
That's awesome. And so we're not going to potentially see first release until when again?
Uh, Maybe we'll get something for PCA
Next year.
2027. Yeah,
Okay. But even
yeah.
if it's at PCA next year, 27, it's still going to be an October release.
It's going to be an October release for my birthday. Yeah.
Okay, dude, that
Yeah.
sounds like a lot of fun. That's a long term project. So these aren't gonna, and I just want to make sure I asked the question right. So these aren't going to be yearly limiteds. They're going to be a one and done. So you'll have 12 one and done. When they're gone releases.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, I like
And
that. I like that.
and it's going to be something interesting because I mean, at the end of the day, we have our productions. We are a full fledged manufacturer. The
Sure.
forecasts. So we have our blends that we really focus on the consistency of our blends in our project, and we farm for years. So that being the case, what ends up happening is that um, when you're focusing, especially the size that we are, there's not of that playing around that I get to do because we're focusing on production, everyday production. So this is going to allow me to do those limited releases, limited editions that technically Gran Habano has really not put out there before. And it's just something at the same time to extend that knowledge to the consumer because we're going to make them part of it.
See, this is what it's fun with a brand like yours that's been around 28 years. You're still doing new things, right? And without naming any brands out there are brands that in my opinion just sell cigars and put cigars out because that's just what they do. They don't really try to innovate within themselves or within the brand. um Again, not naming any names or pointing fingers, but I love hearing after 28 years that you're trying to do something new with the entire brand in a limited run. 12 limited runs. When they're gone, they're gone. That creates that intrigue, that creates that spark. That's also what cigar hunters look for, is the limited releases. So you're giving yourself a really good setup as well for being on radars of maybe people that only hunt limited releases, because there are
Yeah, I
those
mean,
people out there.
I know, and it's kind of one of those things that it's, there's a little bit of everything, of course, in every industry, but at the end of the day, it's kind of, it's more for fun, and hopefully they could appreciate kind of the depth of what we're going to be doing, what I'm going to be trying to create, and hopefully they'll understand and have an open mind, because some of them are going to be very, very interesting. And I'm really kind of trying to focus on bringing something just totally new, totally different, just a different angle to a cigar. And I think that's going to be my approach. I mean, I think, we just need to keep pushing the boundary, and someone later on will pick it up and maybe make it better. But that's kind of like the fun thing, at the end of the day. um the more people that are doing these sort of things later on, I think, I'm looking forward to it.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've smoked your entire lineup that I could get my hands on. You don't have a box press, correct?
No, not currently. We did create a box press years ago. It was called the Cabinet Selection, the Gran Habano Cabinet Selection, and that was a unique cigar for its time. I think it was, I guess it was part of that that 2009, 2008 sort of cabinet phase that everybody went through, and I was participating in that, and we did create a really kind of cool, very mellow, creamy, very flavorful cabinet selection that was a box press. That is the only box press we've ever produced.
Okay. Are potentially, could we see then a box press release inside the limited? Like, are you
I hadn't
against
thought
doing
about
another
it.
box press?
I'm not opposed to doing a box press. My approach to box press is that it does alter the blend entirely.
Yep.
So if you smoke a cigar that's round to a cigar that's box press, you're really kind of bringing in the tobacco to burn closer, and probably with a little bit more heat. And then based on that, it could alter the blend. I played around with it for a while, but I'm not a big fan of box press. I'm more of a fan of a semi box press.
Okay, so the softer box press with the
The
rounded
soft, yeah,
corners.
because it's not that. And I guess because of the way we make our cigars, if you really pick up a Gran Habano, they're very heavy compared to maybe some other cigars that are out there. But it's kind of one of the things that my approach is that we make a cigar that's slow burning, that really gives flavor and complexity and depth that I've always talked about. And so that being said, I might, with a box press, have to go a little bit lighter on the tobacco, which kind of could create a blend, but then you might be altering the overall construction of how we make cigars.
Hmm.
And so semi box press might be the way to go, but I haven't thought about it yet. I'll have to think about that. It's not that we can't do it. It's just depending on how I make the blend, because then I would have to make a blend that's just for box press.
See, what I was
Yeah.
thinking is you could do a box press and call it the Alpha. So now you have a
Mm.
box press Alpha and cylinder
Well,
Omega.
so the thing is, the Corona Especial, the size of that we I call it the Corona Especial, but that size is called the Alpha. Right, so you're getting the Omega, and the size we just called it the Alpha. But we're only making about 1,000 cigars for the party, and guys get to try it at the party this year, and then that'll be done. We'll be done with that one. But yeah, maybe we could do that. I'll give it some thought.
Yeah, I just know that I'm a big fan of box press. I'm just a fan of cigars in general. My favorite size is the Lancero. Then again, everybody knows that. But
Mm.
I just love the way box press feels in the mouth. It holds better, I think. And when done correctly, because you're right, it's a harder roll because you got to put less tobacco in it and then squeeze it to make it that size. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it's just for me. I enjoy box presses, so that's why I was just asking because
Yeah.
I didn't smoke the cabinet one that you did in 2009, and I knew going through my Rolodex that you didn't have one. Uh, I didn't even know you made one in 2009.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's kind of one of those cigars that was very unique for what we were doing at the time. Uh, but that being said, yeah, I mean, I played around with a lot of things. Most of them, my portfolio and everything that I've done in the last 15 years has been very successful for our
Hmm.
company. So we haven't had to kill a brand for over 10 years or more than that, actually, because the Zulu is 2012 and they're still going strong.
Yep.
And so I really kind of like, people don't realize this, but we I play around with a lot of the construction and the quality of cigars that are out there already as they are. So the blends that you're smoking all the time, we're always trying to innovate the blend, meaning with fertilization, with growing processes, with curing. So we're always improving what we already have out there to begin with. So it's kind of something that we still play with the blends, and not changing the blend, but maintaining the consistency of the blend and adding flavor to it. That's kind of been my approach for the last like 15 years.
How hard is it for you to adapt a new size? Meaning, if you go from a Toro, and
Mhm.
I'm just using standard sizes, if you're going from a Toro to a Corona or Toro to Churchill, Toro to Churchill is probably an easier push because they're closer in size as far as ring gauge. But when you're doing that, how are you? Is that a big process for you, or is that you've been doing it this long, you can kind of gauge what that different size cigar would be based on the blend you made? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
No, no, I kind of don't understand it, but
So let me
let me
ask it this
elaborate. Oh,
way.
go ahead.
If
Go ahead.
you're
Yeah.
making a new line extension,
Okay.
how much of a mental headache getting that line extension blend to be as close as possible? Obviously, it's going to be subtleties, or you try to do as close as you can. How much of a headache is that for you, and how hard of a process is that for you?
Well, no, no. Technically, that's not that hard of a process because you're scaling up the blend based on percentages. So if you
Okay,
already have an established blend, you could just kind of scale up or scale down the percentages of tobaccos. It does get more technical with the labor side of it because the roller has to maybe break leaves in order to go for smaller within the blend. But that's why in our factory and many factories, there's people that are rollers that are specific and bunchers that are specific to just certain sizes, and then they get a
okay.
blend and they focus on that. So it's not that hard as long as you have an established blend, and then based on that you add the percentages for each size to maintain the blend.
Is it harder
Um,
to go smaller or bigger in ring gauge?
well,
Meaning, if you have a
it's
Toro and
hard.
you want to make a Lancero versus a Gordo, what would be a harder? Uh,
It's harder to go bigger in my approach,
really?
in
Okay.
my way of thinking. The reason why is because when you're adding more leaves and you're proportionally adding them, you have different factors that people don't account for. So you have more tobacco, but the wrapper and the binder are almost maintaining the same amount of tobacco from the smaller. So here's the thing.
Okay.
All right. So
Okay.
if you go from a Robusto to a Toro, cylindrically, when you're cutting the wrapper, even though you're rolling, the leaf is not much different. You're adding so you're talking about this much, right? But when you're
Mm,
going to a smaller ring, to a bigger ring gauge, you're maybe scaling up these percentages so the wrapper and binder don't change as much. What changes is the components on the inside. So depending on the wrapper that you're using, it's easier to go down because you're cutting it and then the wrapper sort of stands out more, um,
okay.
or, 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 or in conjunction with the filler and binder. But when you're extending it to a bigger ring gauge, you're adding more filler to it and it could alter the blend more. And that's what people don't realize. Another thing that changes is there's two factors, right? It's the draw the
Hmm.
amount of air changes the way the blend smokes too. And then the other thing is the person that's smoking it. Because as you go to a bigger ring gauge, if you get someone that's a fast puffer,
Hmm.
they're heating that in there, bringing more air, drying the tobaccos, altering the blend entirely. But that's after the cigar is made. So it's
Hmm.
harder to maintain the blend as you go bigger. And I'm thinking like going from a Robusto all the way to a 7x70, right? If you go to those big ring gauges, you're really altering the blend, and to maintain that consistency, that's harder. You're adding more components to it. And that's why I say it's harder. Make
Okay,
sense?
okay. No, absolutely, absolutely. It that's an interesting thing because I've heard it both ways. Um, Now the biggest cigar Gran Habano makes is a 660, right?
No, we make a 7x70 on our Corona number 5. It's
Do
called a
you really?
Grandioso. Yeah.
I haven't seen that one. I was just about to ask, are you gonna would you be willing to make something big? I didn't even know you did. See, I don't do big ring gauges like that.
No. I get it. I get it. It's not for everyone. We do have, believe it or not, people don't realize this, but as a full blind, Gran Habanos was producing cigars, bigger ring gauges before it was the norm in the industry. So I was doing 6x60s in 2004 as a regular production cigar. You had other cigars
Very
out there that were
early.
6x60, yeah. So you the previous to that, I mean, if you really wanted to go in production cigars, it was like La Gloria Series R, or Series. It was a Series R, yeah, or 7. I forget which one it was. That was a 6x60,
I think that's the
and that
R. I think that
that's
was
the
the
R,
R.
right?
I think
Yeah.
so.
And so around 2003, 2004, I introduced the Imperiales, which is our 6x60, and we made it a full production run. And that's kind of honestly, not to pat myself on the back, but that was a big component. That cigar was so successful because you could still find it out there because it was on a 100 count tray, and people were walking in and seeing those big giant red trays in the stores. And other manufacturers started jumping on it, and the demand started. And we went from our first year, we went from 34 stores to 900 and over 900 plus stores in like 7 months.
Wow.
And it was the launch of the brand, and the Imperials really took off. And then people started, mimicking and creating 6x60s, and it just became a thing. So then by 2005, I was doing 6x66s, and then people started doing bigger ring gauges. And so then I said, all right, you know what? I'm going to 7x70 by 2006. And then they got bigger after that, and then I stopped. I was like, no, this is way too much.
Yeah,
Uh,
Aganorsa does a 10 by 100. And
yeah.
then, I don't know, do you know Ish Olivan from BAMF? He makes
No,
one
no.
that's a muffler. It's 3 pounds of tobacco.
Wow.
It's a 120, no, it's 2.5 inches at the middle, tapered down to a 60 on one side. And he had a guy suck it down in about 4 hours. Sent him
Wow.
pictures of it. Like it's
Jeez.
that's gimmicky though, and he even knows it. Like
Yeah. I mean,
you're
look.
smoking just to say you smoked something that big at that time.
No, I get it. Look, I mean, I used to see guys out there smoking the Georgia State's egg, and I thought it was kind of cool. And I'm glad that there's something for everyone. I mean, at the end of the day, you want to be able to have something for everyone that they could enjoy, right? At the end of the day, he enjoyed it somehow. And I say that not in a mean spirited way, but it's
Sure.
just at one point, how much flavor can you get out of that? And yeah, it's novelty. But when it gets to past 7x70s, and I'm not, hey, more power to the guys that buy the bigger ring gauges. It just becomes a little bit more of a. I stopped at 7x70 because my dad was bitching that I was using too much tobacco for one cigar. And that's really the reason why. He's like, oh, these cigars are taking too much tobacco. I can't. For when making one cigar, we can make three, and that's too much. And I was like, but that's
It's
what's
what they
really kind
want.
of, that's what they want. It was 2006, 2007, and it was really bringing more customers to our brand. But then the uniqueness of it for me kind of fell through because when everybody does it, I don't want to do it anymore. And kind of so it was no longer kind of like the underground scene kind of thing. It just became the standard in the in the whole industry for a period of time. But 60 stayed, and I think I'm happy for that because when I first got into the industry, the biggest cigar out there at the time, full production, was a double Corona from Cuba, which everybody sort of tried to mimic in the mid '90s, and it was a 7.5 by 50. And then I came out with a 6 by 54 in 2001, and that was like, whoa, Toros are usually 50 by
That's
6.
a Grand Toro, pretty much.
And for me, it was a Gran Robusto. And
Okay,
that was the name that I called it. And it was a play on my brand name.
sure.
So I don't know. Listen, overall, I think everybody's added a little bit to the industry over the years. And these are things that change the industry and change who we are. And, everybody's given something that's kind of, it's added more people to really kind of participate in our industry, which is all, I'm all for that. More
Oh, sure.
competition is better. Everything's better.
So, for those people that don't know, George not just being a brand owner, but he's also very integral inside of the cigar world with PCA. You've been on the board of PCA, aren't you currently, or weren't you
Mhm.
just currently on the board of PCA?
So I have a 3 year.
That's right. So you
Um,
that was last year you were announced, right?
I was announced last year, so I came on board to being on the board of directors for PCA in the middle of last year. So I
Yeah.
started in the middle of last year, and then this year is going to be my first year, and it's kind of one of those things that I want to help as much as possible our industry, however I can. I have limitations, but whatever I can help with is kind of one of the things that we're working on.
So
So for this year at PCA, we're having a really nice school project that I'm working with, but we'll touch on that after if you
yeah.
want.
Yeah, no, for sure. I just wanted to say so I say you're very integral within the cigar industry, not just your own brand. You've got feelers out there. You know everybody in the industry. Been in here for a long time now. Why do you think 660s? And I've never actually asked this question to anybody. Why do you think 660s took off? I've always heard of people in the beginning going, "Oh, that's going to be too big. Nobody's going to buy those." Just kind of like what you said your dad was telling you, even though they were being bought. Why do you think the size went from what the 70s, 80s, 60s, 50s were the small Panatellas, more of the Lancero size, and it's progressively gotten bigger?
I don't know. People have asked me that question over the years. I mean, I've answered that, and first for a long time in the late 2010s, people were asking me, "You think the cigars 6x60s are here to stay?" And I think I answered that question on a podcast years ago. And I said, yeah, I think they're here to stay because the consumers are liking the feel. I think it kind of added an extra dimension of the amount of tobaccos that you could utilize with the blends. So a lot of people picked on that where they started making multi filler blends. And when I say that is they started adding, I've heard of cigars that are like 5 different tobacco fillers or
Hmm.
more, 7, and probably some of the more minuscule parts of it. But I think it just added like another sort of quiver to the manufacturer's. I forgot what it's called for the
Uh,
whatever for
uh,
the arrows. You know
no,
what I'm talking about?
arrow
The
in your
satchel,
quiver.
whatever.
Arrow, you
Yeah.
said it's the quiver is the satchel. Arrow in your quiver.
Arrow in the quiver. There you go.
Yeah.
You see, I need to learn some of these things. All right, good. You got me covered. You know what I meant.
Yes, yes,
All right,
yes.
so it's the dyslexia kicking in there. Anyway, so point being is that it just added another arrow to the quiver, and it really sort of gave us a different way of being able to make cigars. I think the consumer also bought into the fact that they were able to get more for their buck with the way the cigars were being made. They were lasting longer. That added more to it. Um, and it just kind of there's a lot of different variables, but I think overall the consumers really appreciated what we were putting out there, and you know, I'm happy to be part of bringing that up to where it is now, and it
For
just took
sure.
off and went on its own. We're still big in the 6x60 world, and I'm happy that I was there at the beginning. So
Well, do you think the introduction of that size range, 6x60, was that do you think that brought cigar smokers in that were finally like, oh, I want to smoke a bigger cigar. I've just never had one. Or do you think that was more for the current smoker to try a new size, a new line?
I think it was a little bit of both. I think it did bring a lot of new smokers because, for the most part, for years, and you're talking 90s when I came on board in the mid 90s, being around, working with my dad, cigars were small to the feel for some men. And the blends that were out there were very mild, let's be honest, compared to what they are now.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, look, my Corona number 5 was a full body cigar in
Hmm.
2001. Now it's considered a medium body, right? But that being said, I think it really kind of gave that feel of a good firm cigar, a good airflow, a lot of different factors that I think the consumer kind of really picked on and enjoyed from those cigars. So um, yeah, I think it's kind of in part both things.
See, for me, 660 is literally as big as I go, and I don't really smoke a lot of 660s. I find myself more to the smaller ring gauges, to like the 52s below. I say smaller ring gauge. 52 is not super small, but like Toro is usually my go to. But obviously Lancero is my pinnacle.
Mm.
And anybody that disagrees with me, that's your opinion, and that's totally fine. But I mean, I'm sorry if you disagree that Lanceros don't taste the best. I question your flavor profile. No, I'm totally kidding.
so
It's subjective, totally.
so it is subjective, but I will say the Lanceros are phenomenal. I think they're a good starting point to because it's a good balance of the filler binder wrapper ratio, and depending on the blends and the construction, because yeah, some manufacturers might overpack them. The draw might be an issue. They overheat depending on the consumer. That's where I think the draw is. Someone that smoked Lanceros for 20 years, which I love, and that was the start of the Zulu project.
Hmm. Great
I used
Lancero,
to.
by the way.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Um, I've really kind of have moved up to a 46 ring gauge. So I'm smoking a 46 by 7, and that's what I call
Ooh,
my Corona Especial.
okay,
I really find it that it fits. It's just perfect at this point in time in my
sure,
life, where it gives me that depth of filler combinations, and you're still having about realistically almost the same amount of wrapper and binder that you
hmm,
find in a Lancero. Maybe a tad less in the Lancero and the wrapper and binder, but it's a little bit more meatier Lancero.
sure.
And even my Lanceros, I make them 40 ring gauge, and it's just something that I used to smoke a lot of 38s, and then I moved over to a 40 for a lot of years, and then I moved up to a 46. But I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's whatever you like. That's what matters. It's not what other people are smoking. That's what we make so many different sizes,
Sizes, yes,
and that's what they keep increasing, right?
for sure.
So I'm all for it. Smoke everything. Just try, find what you like, and once you find it, don't get stuck on it because there might be something else that you enjoy. Now, here's the thing, and this is the tip that I tell a lot of people is if you ever meet a manufacturer, ask them what they blended the blend that
I was just
the
gonna ask
cigar.
you that. Yeah,
Yeah. Always ask them if you get an opportunity, always ask them what size did you blend this to? Because that is the original version of that cigar.
yep.
And in essence, that's going to be the closest to what they were trying to do at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, it's kind of unique and different, and I love it. And it's gonna be it's gonna be something interesting because it's gonna be part of the witch's brew. So look for that.
Fantastic. And that's such a great question to ask. I personally think, as a novice cigar smoker, trying to understand the sizes of a blend that you not should smoke, but maybe you should start with. That is one of my go-to questions. Actually, I think I asked you this the last time you were on the show last year. Um, but that's one of my go-to questions because I'm a firm believer of that. If they blend it to a 6x50 and then there's Robusto or Gordo or Corona beyond that, start with the 6x50. Go with what they were trying to achieve and then go and then branch out from there to see if you like the other lines. I think that is one of the most underrated questions that nobody asks really any blender.
Yeah, and I think that's what you should ask. Like, I don't sell a lot of Corona Gordas, but the majority of all my blends are all blended to a 46 by 6. It's
Mhm.
just the way what I do. I like the difficulty. I like the 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 the, the restrictions that the size puts on me when I'm trying to blend. And then if I could go to a 50 or 54 and then play around with that to maintain the blend or maybe add more to the blend, um, to the bigger ring gauges and bring that back to the 46 if I want to play around with that. But for the most part, realistically, I blend to a 46, and it's just something that I enjoy because it limits me. Because I'm someone that if you give me this much space, I'm gonna take that much, you know. So because you're always trying to add more and really
Sure.
kind of like just play around with it, and that's something that I'm very lucky, to be honest, is the fact that I have that ability to play in making cigars, and so you want to push it as much as possible. That's all.
So I want to ask you. Oh my gosh, literally just left my mind. Oh yes. Before I did, we'll talk about the PCA thing that you had kind of teased a little bit. Have there ever been a cigar that you've made just for you that you've either never contemplated releasing or felt that the market just wouldn't be into it the way you are, but you still make it for yourself?
I
Is there
do.
a George only cigar?
Well, the last, well, there's two. There's two currently that I make for myself. Um, I don't have one with me, but and it's more of a size, right? So the Zulu was my original private blends in the Lancero. So I had a Connecticut and a Habano,
Mm-hmm.
and I smoked the hell out of that forever, and that was the only thing I carried around for forever, and it was only made for me. Then the blue and green was only made for me for a long time because those blends that I just made for myself. And then the Black Dahlia was that cigar. So every cigar that's been my blend, I've released eventually. But
Okay.
currently, I'm stuck more on a size, so I do a 36 by 5. And so because I'll drive home, and I used to light up a Robusto on the drive home, and then I get to my front door and I'm like 10-15 minutes away from my house, so I'm like tossing, and I was like, wait, let me make a 20-minute cigar, and I'm stuck on the 20th anniversary 5 by 36, the blue and green 5 by 36, and then the Black Dahlia 5 by 36. So that's what I've been smoking. It's more of a size thing now,
I think we need
and
those.
so
I think we need those. 36? That sounds like a fun gauge to smoke.
oh my God, it's my favorite. I was gonna release that, and I teased it for the Corona number 5 in a 3-pack, which I might release later this year. Because let's be honest, guys that come and buy my cigars are usually bigger ring gauges,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't have time, but you still want to smoke a Gran Habano. So I have the 36s, and that's what I'm like, well, the consumer, why toss? Because if you're a consumer, this is the way I look at it, right? You're paying $12 for a cigar and you smoke one third of it and you don't save it because you can, you just lost how much? Like, what
Eight
was that? Eight
bucks. Eight
bucks?
bucks.
Exactly. Yeah. So you just lost $8. So why not give you something that you could smoke the same blend just three times and it's $4 each? That's the way I looked at it. So
Okay. Are we ever gonna potentially see those in like a tin or a small box, like a 50 count box
it's a
release?
small box. You'll see it later in the year. I stopped because I was gonna do the Omegas. It's too many projects. I did the Patacas, which is a 10 count. Recently, that's another release for PCA, which is just the 10 counts of everything that I make. And it's because, look, I get it. Price points, cigars are not very accessible right now, so you can't buy a box. So let me give you something that you could still afford a 10 count. And so that's where we're going with the patacas, giving people the flexibility of having what they smoke, but not having that big investment. And you still might get that box discount at the retail side. And so the 3 pack will come out later. And that's actually called, it's called lanyap, or where I'm from, we call it lanyapa, which is basically something that when you go to a vendor, they give you like a little gift, like a candy. Hey, thank you for
Sure,
coming.
sure,
Well, to
sure.
me, it's just that extra little half inch of extra cigar that you find in our trays. So that's where the la nyap is going to come into.
We're getting a lot out of you tonight, George. You're giving us
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot
Well, I
because
mean, I've been productive on what I've been working on. I just don't know. I just
I
gotta
haven't
just
seen you talk about that smaller 36 release at all yet, though.
I well, no, it's because I
I
only
almost feel like
carry
I
it in a
need to
little
do
bundle.
breaking news again.
Go ahead. Hey, I should go get it.
Yeah, grab
I'll
it. I
send
would
you.
love to
I
see
don't.
it.
I have a bundle somewhere here in my house. I mean, I don't want to walk away. So,
No, no, you're
but
okay.
I'll
I
I'll
tell
send
you
you a
what.
picture of it.
I tell you what. Would you allow me to do this
Mm.
favor for my 200th episode? Can I give away 5 of those? A 5 pack of just those cigars.
Which blend?
Your choice. Just that
Okay.
size. I want to first off, I would love to try one of each because the blue and green's one of my favorite Connecticut's. Um,
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. But I would love to, if you'd be willing, my 200th episode is 2 weeks from now. I would love to give a 5 pack of that size away. And
I'll
and
send you. I keep them in bundles of 20 or 25. I think they're 20s. I'll send you 2 bundles because I order 10 bundles at a time for me to carry in my backpack. I mean, I don't carry 10 bundles at a time. I
yes, you
carry one
do.
bundle
Don't
at a time.
lie. Don't lie.
No, 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 no. Because I don't like to share them. I don't like to share them because people, they might look at them as little whimsical small cigars, and
See,
they're
I
just they're
love
just for me.
that. I think the
Yeah,
smaller
if you got 20
cigars
minutes, if you
need to
got
come
20
back.
minutes, yeah, if you got 20 minutes, I got a cigar for you.
Yeah, I think the smaller, good quality, not the just the cheap tins that you could buy, but I think the smaller ring gauge, good quality cigars are lacking in many
Mm.
spots inside the industry. Oftentimes, I'm smoking a Robusto when I'll take my daughter to the park or we go on a walk, and I would love to smoke something smaller that gives that same quality and that same experience. Because, like you said, by the time I get back from my walk, my daughter's 5. I'm not walking 10 miles with her, right?
Yeah,
So, by the time we get back, you're right. I half the cigar. So then I'm like, well, go figure out something to do outside while I finish this cigar, you know? So
exactly.
I think that's awesome. And yes, I would be honored to
Yeah,
give a
no, no,
few of
no.
those away. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll hook you up. I'll send them tomorrow.
Perfect,
Send me a
perfect.
text because I always forget everything.
Will do, man. I appreciate that. So now I want to kind of talk about that PCA thing that you teased a little bit.
Yeah, no. So this is very important because I think it's something that's worth looking into, and um, I'm excited about this. Is if you're a retailer and looking at this, come by if you're going to PCA. Come by on Sunday. I believe it's Sunday, at Cuban Creations, we're going to be releasing the Gran Habano Rise uh, Women of PCA cigar. So it's a collaboration, and we're working with PCA to help fund the Women of PCA. And it's something very interesting. I think it's something that's really interesting. I really like the fact that there are so many more women smoking cigars.
Yes.
It's only just helping our industry,
Yep.
and why not give them an opportunity? So I named it the Rise for many reasons. But it's something really kind of unique because I named it after the Maya Angelou poem "I Rise."
Hmm.
So if you know about that poem, I
Oh yeah.
recommend you look for it. Point being is, so it's named after that poem, but it has a lot of meaning for women of PCA. We're doing a collaboration. Gran Habano is going to be selling, but the proceeds are going to go entirely to women of PCA, supporting uh, that particular group, and hopefully we get more and more chapters of built out nationally because of women of PCA. So I'm looking forward to it.
So I just gotta say, I love the fact that women are the fastest growing segmentation within the cigar world. Women of
Yeah.
all ages. When I say all ages,
Yeah.
probably 30 and above. Of course, it's not like 16-year-old women are going out buying cigars, or even 21-year-old women. But like they get into it with their husbands for whatever reason, they stick with it, or they just their grandparents or grandmothers smoke. My aunt Judy lives in Tennessee, and when she came out here, I jokingly said to her, "Hey, you want a stick?" And she's like, "Oh, no, no, no." But most of my friends smoke cigars. And I'm like, "What do you mean most of your friends?" "Oh, yeah. They have a ladies group that all gets together and smokes cigars and goes over Bible verses together." I'm like, "You got to be kidding me."
Wow.
Like, that's like a
Cool.
thing for. So I love the fact. In fact, my biggest show I've ever done was my Ladies of the Leaf Roundtable I did 3 years ago in March, or 2 years ago in
Nice.
March. It's like still consistently on a weekly basis, it's like 30 or 40 views. And it was
Wow.
3 years, 2 or 3 years ago. So
Yeah.
I love the fact that you're showcasing that, because I'm a firm believer that if your husband always wants to go to a lounge and you're willing as a wife to kind of not willing but understand that, take that time and you can make it about yourselves as a couple. Go to the lounge together, smoke nothing, but just sit there and be in that environment. Like it, it really is a great way to relax with your spouse, because the world kind of washes away a little bit. You're smoking a cigar, you're much more relaxed. I don't see too many people arguing over a cigar in their hand.
Not
You
really.
know,
And I mean, that's what's great about cigars, right?
it is. It is. Yeah, I had
So,
Michael Knowles a couple weeks ago on, and he's like, and I've heard this said before. He's not the first one, but most of the world's problems could be solved with with a good glass of bourbon or scotch and a cigar. You know,
I believe so.
and so I love the fact that you're showcasing women, and I like the fact that PCA is taking that step to do that, because you have a lot of female brand owners now, more so in the last 5 years than you've ever had in the cigar industry. Would you agree?
Yes, and so much more retail owners, women retail owned stores, which is really impressive, and I love that about the growth of that segment, because I think they have a lot to bring to the table to our industry, different perspectives, and I think they're really creating their space, and why not help contribute to grow that? Oh, the Corona, is that the Reserva
Yep.
2011?
2012.
2012, 2011. If you find them, look for them. We don't have any. We're not selling any more 2011s. We're probably going to be releasing later in the year the 2013, which was the production. That cigar was made in 2013, so the Reserva to the Corona number five.
Well, I mean, like I said, they're all exceptionally well made, well balanced cigars.
Thank
Like
you.
you're right. There's never one of your cigars where I've been where it started smooth and ended harsh, or started harsh and ended smooth. It's as far as the balance of the cigar, it's balanced all the way through. It's you do have some transitions within your cigars. You do have some flavors that come out stronger in the middle, or even in the final third, but you don't have the that first hit was just a pepper bob, and then it kind of mellows out, or even vice versa. So that's something that I've always appreciated, is your
Thank you.
consistency and your balance is you can tell that's what you blend for.
Thank you.
um
Now, in all fairness, that Corona number 5, the 3, and the Connecticut were all blended by my father. Those are the original core brands, the Maduro. So those are the ones that people know the most, and actually those were created by my father. Every project afterwards has been created by me, but those in particular have always been by. Those were originally his 4 blends. Went back in 1995.
okay, okay. Now,
Hmm.
getting back to the women's side of cigars, and again, I love seeing I love walking into a lounge and seeing husband and wife smoking a cigar together. When I was at TGS, Abe, over at Smoke Inn,
Yeah,
there were so many couples that were there, and everyone was smoking. There was more
that's great.
women I saw at the Great Smoke this year than I have ever seen.
Wow.
And like, it's such a growing segmentation. Why is that important? And put your PCA hat on now, right? Not your George Rico Gran Habano hat. With your PCA hat on, there you go. Like over the top, right? You just flip your switch, right? Oh, geez,
Yeah.
that tells my age. 80s Stallone movie, arm wrestling. Why is that important for women to be just as included within the cigar world as men? And I ask the question because in the US and in Europe is probably one of the few places where women aren't really the predominancy inside the cigar world. You go to
Hmm.
Nicaragua, Honduras, Dominican, the vast majority of women, from what I've been told, or a vast
Are
majority
the
of
rollers?
workers are
Yeah.
women, from the
Yeah.
sorters to the rollers to everything fine motor skills, the labeling. Why is it so important for PCA to showcase US European women cigar smokers or brand owners?
Well, I think it's just really sort of the organization or the part of what Women in PCA was created by a woman. Her name is Kathleen in New York State, and she's part of PCA. And I think I came on board to help and participate and help expand on that because I really feel strong about having women be part of the industry. I really feel strong, having had such a huge impact by my mother being part of my life and really sort of helping to raise me and give me that sort of understanding that women are no different than men. I mean, I look at it that way, right? And now in this predominantly male run industry, now that they're carving their own independently and being and moving forward and then bringing to the industry with brands and retail owned stores and smoking and supporting all the different manufacturers out there. I really think that they need to be supported and becoming a bigger part of our industry because they are, like you said, a huge component of our industry already at the manufacturing,
Hmm.
the farming process. Why not continue that process of bringing them on to this side of the industry? And I feel that they have a lot to offer, and they're no different than you and I, realistically, on how a cigar might taste, what the profile is. Maybe there might even be better than you
I
and
was just
I.
saying, you could make the
Yeah,
case that they would probably have better senses for flavor
I
profile.
100%. I 100% agree. I mean, the lady that runs our factory, her name is Karina. She's almost family to me. She is family technically. Point being is, she runs the full operations at our factory, and I feel very strong having worked with a woman on in within my company. I feel that they have a lot more sometimes than me at doing my job, and I think why not just share the space?
I,
That's
I
really what it comes down to.
I totally agree. Where do you feel that is it Hollywood that stigmatized cigars to a man's? Because, and again, for everybody that doesn't fully understand what I said earlier, if you watch a factory video, the predominancy that you will see roller wise, sorter wise, everything other than the manual labor of the field is predominant women within a lot of these factories. So where do you think? And they're smoking cigars too, by the way. If you watch the rolling videos, they're all over there smoking cigars. Like they're like they're pros, right? They smoke it better than we do in America, I'm sure. So where do you think that stigmatism of it's a man's thing? Because cigarettes never had that stigmatism.
No,
So you
I
can't
really
say it's
think
tobacco.
I really think it comes down to the historical aspect of how cigars were part of our culture, and typically men, would have, and people that smoke cigars maybe 100 years ago were, cigars were the first cigarette. Everyone smoked cigars before cigarettes came onto the scene,
Sure.
and then the majority of the people took on smoking cigars later on. I mean, cigarettes. But that being said, I think it was more culturally accepted for men to smoke, after dinner, however it was back in the day, different scenarios. And I think that's maintained sort of, it's never, although it started to change in the 90s. I do, I, Did I remember correctly? I mean, I think they might have been a cigar aficionado and Demi Moore. I'm not sure.
There's
Somewhere
been a
along the
lot of
line.
women. There's been a lot of women on the front of Cigar Aficionado from
Yeah.
mid '90s to mid 2000s.
Yeah.
You're right.
And then I started,
Demi Moore was on it, and a few
yeah,
others.
I mean, I used to be a huge fan of CA, reading the articles and getting all the information out of them. But I remember a lot of the covers to this day, and I remember some of the articles. Uh, it's crazy. But point being is that I think it started to change in the '90s, and it became more inclusive in the '90s, and it was so the sex appeal for a period of time where like, oh, women smoking, it was more to attract cigar smokers, like anybody that ran a club back in the '90s and 2000s, just the more women at the line kind of approach. And I think that was the wrong way to look at it. But little by little, towards the 2010s, the late tens and early tens, more women started to come on, and I'm started to see them more at events, and it's something that they're. I don't know. I think they could appreciate what we're doing, and I think it's great. I mean, I don't know how to more dive into it, but I think overall, I'm really I'm enjoying the fact that they're participating in our culture.
No, I love it, and it goes back to like again. It just I asked the question because women have been smoking cigars for a very very long time. I actually
Yeah.
just I looked it up here. Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis was often seen as smoking a cigar.
Okay.
You have Queen Victoria, often seen smoking a cigar. But somewhere along the way, it stereotyped itself as a man's thing in public. And that's where I'm loving the fact that the
Yeah, we're
industry's kind of
changing that.
stepping back and going, no, no,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. Everybody
Yeah.
can smoke. And in fact, the more husbands and wives smoke together, the more cigars you guys all sell. So like it really does make sense because the right 20 years, 30 years, I always hear from my friends, I don't know, I can't buy a box. If I buy another box, my wife's going to get upset at me. If she's smoking cigars, now you get to buy two boxes. You get a box for
Well, I
her and a
guess if
box
you
for.
look at it, it makes more business sense, I guess.
No, but
I'm
I
just
love
one of
it.
those that I'm very inclusive, and if we could get aliens to smoke cigars, I'm all for it too.
Oh yeah, like my daughter turns 5 in June. Now she doesn't actually smoke cigars, of course, but we have these long rubber like chewy straws, right? And when we go for our walk, she's got a little Power Wheels Jeep, right? That I converted to a 12-volt DeWalt battery, whatever. It run for like 8 hours, right? So we're out on this thing all day. And I'll come in here. She gets a huge kick out of it. She picks them out cigars. She picks a cigar out for me because of the band. She doesn't have any
Right.
idea. She's just like, "Oh, I like this band, Dad. Smoke it." And then as we go to leave, she goes, "Can I have my cigar?" And I go inside and I get her Chewy, which is a long rubber straw, and she holds it in her mouth just like I do, driving her car. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's great, So like,
Yeah.
I look forward to. I say this because I only have a daughter. I look forward to the day when she's 21, right? We'll say it for now, and she wants to smoke a cigar with me. My wife smoked cigars with me so she developed that love. So I love the fact that the industry, as my daughter gets older, if she chooses to continue smoking cigars, she's going to feel accepted in the industry or within this environment.
Yeah, no, I think it's positive. I think overall it's good. Like I said, I don't see them any different. And ultimately, at the end of the day, um, I'm really happy that there's more people that are that are being part of even more to discuss and have conversations at the cigar store. I think that's going to be interesting, and I'm looking forward to that.
No, and again, I love the fact that the PCA is doing that. So, since we're still on the topic of PCA, what's your thoughts on going back to? Um, Obviously, it's for those of you that don't know, PCA will be in New Orleans for one more year. See, I said it like I'm from there, New Orleans. You don't say New Orleans. You guys say New Orleans. It just kind of rolls off the tongue.
Okay.
What's your take on it going from New Orleans back to Vegas? Do you think that's a good move? I've heard conflicting.
No, I mean I think it's a good move because it's going to be 2 years in New Orleans, like you said it. I'm trying. Now that being said, I think it's a good thing because it just changes the setting of our cigar industry. I mean, I love New Orleans. It's one of my favorite cities in the whole country. I think the food, the people, everything about the city is phenomenal. The state I love, and they've been very welcoming to cigar smokers, especially our trade show. We have limitations with our trade show where we could take and smoke at our trade show. So, Vegas and New Orleans have been the more open to our trade show, and the change. It's something that I'm looking forward to because I think some people don't like New Orleans. I don't know why.
They think it's
But
dirty
that
for
being said,
whatever reason.
yeah, and I think that it's wrong. I think if you're in our industry, you should
Some of the
always go to
best
our
food.
trade show because there's so much that you can learn, participate, uh, be part of the community, really kind of share your ideas how you run your stores, or just if you're a cigar smoker and you get to come out and be there at that time of the year. But moving to Vegas, I got to tell you, I mean, I love Vegas, but I'm more of a foodie guy. I'm not
Yeah.
a casino guy.
Yeah.
That being said, it's a great venue. It's a great place. I do like it being there and then moving and coming back. I think I appreciate it more, and I think that's what's going to be unique and different about our trade show in Las Vegas. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what happens next year in Las Vegas. So.
Now
Um,
the contracting side to that I've heard, and again, I've never been to a PCA, so I can't know this for true, is that the New Orleans show brought some of the new East Coast brands to New Orleans that maybe because Vegas is a lot more expensive, let's be honest, probably than New Orleans. Um, and it brought in some of the more of the East Coast stuff that maybe has a harder time getting out to Vegas. Does that have any truth or relevancy behind it, in your opinion?
Could be. I haven't really looked at it that way. I mean, I think if anybody is in the industry, should always try to be in our trade show organization, in our trade show, right? Regardless, because it's just like I said, it's part of being part of the industry. Whether it's in Vegas or New Orleans or anywhere else. That being said, I could understand that as a small manufacturer starting out, it's probably a little bit more accessible for the people to start. I remember when I was starting out in 2001 for my first trade show exhibiting Gran Habanos, it was costly, but it was still it was like the Super Bowl for us, like as a small company coming out, and like you had to be there no matter what, and we had made a lot of sacrifices, and I understand where those people are in regards to, because it comes down to accessibility of funds to be able to come out. So maybe New Orleans was more attractive, or more readily available for financial reasons. That being said, I think when you go to Vegas, more people do travel to Vegas because it's a destination that everyone across the country wants to go to. There's easy flights compared to maybe New Orleans. That being said, I hope that they all go. Keep supporting the trade show, because that's what really is a big driver. Believe it or not, I mean, and I guess I'll put on my PCA hat here. Um, I hope that everybody really supports the PCA, and understands that the organization, whether you see or not, does a lot for retailers in their
Hmm.
states and local government, that they don't realize that we're constantly reaching out when there's ever an issue. If you're a member, uh, you could call us, and someone's going to be calling that state uh, somewhere along the lines to help, because there's a new bill, it's a new legislation that's going against retailers, to smoking bans, to the consumer rights to be able to support cigars. So that's my little soapbox there on that one. So please support, because they're doing a lot on the back end, a lot that people don't realize. And I'm on the committees, and I'm seeing every day, every week, and I'm seeing what's going on across the country. And every year there is 10 to 40 to 50 bills that are trying to put the mom and pop cigar shop out of business somewhere.
Hmm.
Smoking bans, generational smoking bans,
That's the
restrictions,
scariest.
and so that's what the organization, the trade show, does. It's funded through that to help throughout the course of the year fight all these things that happen, and I hope that people realize that we need to contribute, and that's why I wanted to be a part of it, because, like I said, like I want to bring in more people to smoke cigars. I want to make sure that we have an industry for other people to be able to have that freedom to create their own brand and to be part of the culture and become my competitor, and in essence bring something new to the industry. And I'm looking forward to that, because I love competition. Competition's good. It means that our industry is thriving, and so for that reason, that's why people should be going to the show. If you're a retailer, you need to be out there, just because you're going to be able to meet people that are going to share ideas. And you're in your own four walls, you don't know how to do your business, or you're always going to get someone that's going to share how to do your business, or maybe you could teach other people how to, improve their business. And that's what our small industry uh, needs more of.
No, for sure. And being that you brought up generational smoking bans, I want to kind of end the show with just chatting about that a little bit, as far as what that
Okay.
means. Um, so you could put your PCA habit. No, I'm just kidding. But so one of the things I found interesting actually was on Kevin Shahan's show with Kevin and Care a couple weeks or last week, and we were talking about this tobacco, hemp, and oh my gosh, what was the other big tobacco and hemp essentially built this country from cash for cash crops. Hemp was the original
100%.
boat makers. Ropes were made out of hemp. The Constitution was written on hemp paper. Declaration was written on hemp paper. One of the very first drug laws, quote unquote, in this country, if you want to call it that, was if you had the ability to grow hemp, you had to grow hemp. Tobacco was also the number one cash crop of this country. And now,
Tobacco, Virginia
yeah,
helped to fund the revolution and
correct.
pay the debt down
Alcohol.
from the revolution.
Alcohol was the other
Yeah.
one. Um,
Oh,
but no, you're 100% right. And now, in just looking this up, you have Massachusetts and Hawaii are going to be amongst the first considering generational tobacco bans. You also have Nevada. Nevada's considering a generational smoking ban as well, from what I can see from April of last year here in an article. Massachusetts, like I said, is pushing for it. What does that
Massachusetts
mean?
is one.
Massachusetts,
So
Hawaii, Nevada, and a few others. Why?
I don't
That
know the
makes no
current status
sense.
of the bills and where if they were renewed for 2026. But I will tell you that essentially what's going to happen is that there's going to be a year where anybody past a certain year cannot buy tobacco products.
But do you think that'll hold
So
up in court, in the Supreme Court, as
I mean, look, I just don't know because the restrictions that we have are sort of crazy at times because as tobacco, because of a big tobacco, right? We can't advertise in certain ways. We're restricted. We're taxed in a certain way. Um, there's restrictions on our industry, but yet there's a lot of collection of taxes to go through
mm,
that are a lot of people don't see on the back end. I think the federal government has become very, very astute at charging tariffs and taxes so the consumer doesn't see them at at the register.
yep.
And that's one things where people don't understand that we're paying a ton of taxes on the back end, and when we're buying a product, you're essentially getting taxed. And a lot of that pressure is put on the importers, on the manufacturers, on the distributors, before the consumer even sees it on the state and federal level. So I think it's not fair, essentially,
So
because we're contributing so much in taxes, but you're limiting the amount of commerce that's being done in the way commerce is being. And I understand, look, I'm not a proponent for young people to smoke. I'm not a proponent. I think it's an adult, and I think for the most part, everybody that smokes cigars is over the age of. I think our average
average is
cigar
28.
smokers are between.
28.
No, 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 it's much higher than that, I
Oh, it
believe.
is? I thought it was
I think
28.
it's 35 to 45.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
so we're up there. It's not 28 at all. From last time I saw something, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. That being said, the restrictions that the states now at the city levels, which is what people really need to pay attention to, is no longer the state. A lot of these free tobacco are coming after our freedom to smoke tobacco at the city level. And when that goes city, it's a lot harder to change than state.
So
And people really need to be aware of that. And so, to the issue with Boston, I mean, is it Boston or Massachusetts? Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
Um, the problem is that you're precluding a new generation to have freedoms to choose what they want with their lives, and that's the
Totally.
issue that I have.
And
That's all I'm.
my big issue, and I completely agree with you, and to your point, my big issue is alcohol is not treated the same. It's literally the same thing. It's an intoxicant. An intoxicant is an intoxicant. But alcohol can promote on TV. Alcohol can have Super Bowl ads. Like, could you imagine Gran Habano having a Super Bowl ad? It's almost like unthought of. But it's unthought
Yeah.
of because of the regulation, not because Gran Habano can't afford a Super Bowl ad. It's unthought of because tobacco is so denigrated in this country. And again, I was a cigarette smoker for 20 years. Let people smoke whatever they want. I smoke only cigars now, and I haven't smoked a cigarette in over 5 years. But uh, I am a firm believer that if you're going to outlaw one intoxicant, what's keeping that from another intoxicant? So alcohol's destroyed more lives, families, wrecked, ruined, killed more people in history than any other intoxicant on the planet. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. It's also wrecked more families. Tobacco's never done any of that. Tobacco's
Yeah.
only hurts the person smoking. It doesn't have the outside effect that drinking does.
I mean, but to the point that I feel like as an adult, now when it's targeted to
Kids,
younger
yes,
people, kids is different. And my perspective on vapes is very solid on that one.
it's
I don't
awful.
agree with it.
It's awful.
That being said, I just feel that you should have the right to do or pick
Mhm,
to whatever you want to do in your life with your life.
mhm.
And the ultimate that the federal government puts restrictions on that. I don't agree with that, but I do think that I don't know if it was New Zealand who had a generational tobacco. I got to go back and look at it, and then they reverted afterwards. I forgot what it was. It was one of the countries outside that introduced. I think Australia introduced one, or was it New Zealand, or was it England? I don't recall, but I think they're looking to change it back. So I mean, these restrictions on freedom, I'm not a big fan. Whether it is the pickleball or anything else, right? When you start telling me that I can't do it, I really have an issue with it, and
Yeah,
especially if you're taxing that industry the
correct.
way that they're taxing us. So I mean, it's just, and they're taxing the consumers, in essence, that support those products. So
Well,
I don't understand the
they literally created entire states children's health insurance program off of S
Mhm,
chip, off of the back of
mhm.
tobacco.
Yeah.
So literally,
Look,
it to me it's confusing. Don't smoke, but if you don't smoke, the kids don't get insurance. So like it's I don't know. To me, it's talking out of both sides of your mouth at that point when you attach an insurance program to tobacco taxes as the main funder of that insurance program,
yes, yeah.
and then turn around and leave it and then say we're going to get rid of tobacco. But do you honestly think in this country that SCOTUS would actually ever allow a generational smoking ban? Like, do you feel that states actually have the right to ban tobacco?
Well, so when you look at it that way, there's two things to that question. I mean, the thing is that the position now of everything is that the states have rights to pick their own restrictions, I guess, if you want to look at it, whereas the federal government will essentially, like you're saying, not allow it. Maybe, I don't know, the restrictions or freedoms at that point in time, but the states do have the rights to pick. So I don't know what the outcome is going to be. I think for us is that what I left you with originally is that's why we need to support the PCA as much as possible, because
Yes,
they're making sure that we don't get to that level,
I agree.
uh, as as much as possible. So it's very important that we stay ahead of it, because it could happen.
Mhm.
And you're talking about Hawaii, California, and then some of these other states will follow suit. So um,
Once one
the
does it, it's a
possibility is
snowball.
there. Yeah, and if you're not saying anything and you're not doing anything, then it's your fault,
No,
essentially,
I don't
because
disagree because what is the old
yeah.
adage? They came for the guy down the block and I didn't say anything. They came for my neighbor. I didn't say anything. When they came for me, there was nobody to say anything at all. And that's a very
Hmm.
true. My only complaint with PC, and I even mentioned this to Josh when I had him on the show, is I wish PCA stood up for flavored cigars, but I get why they don't, and that's not to have a discussion about it. That's just, I get why they don't, but I wish they would, because flavored cigars, in as far as the acid lines, are a lot of the introductory cigars for people to get to start smoking others. But I understand why. But everybody
Well,
watching
not
tonight,
necessarily. I think if anything, I don't think that's correct either because of the fact that I know a ton of cigar smokers that smoke premium cigars. They'll have a flavor cigar every so often, and it's actually, for the most part, the biggest part of our industry that I've seen out there. So I don't think it's an entry to it. I wouldn't say that. I think it's a portion of our industry, but I'll just leave that. I don't want to touch that
oh yeah,
subject
no, no,
because
no, no, yeah, that wasn't meant to be touched. I was bringing that up to tell everybody
yeah,
that it's so important to support the PCA, because what they're trying to do is definitionally segregate. If definitionally is a word, I don't know. It sounds right.
yeah.
They're trying to definitionally separate cigars from cigarettes, and I think if they separate that legally, that will solve potentially the generational ban, because cigarettes would not be, or cigars wouldn't be classified, hopefully, under that same classification scheduling as cigarettes.
Understandable. I mean, look, touching on the subject of things that need to be taken care of, I think people really need to look at sugar. If you really want
Totally.
to move on forward, I mean, you have kids with diabetes going to Starbucks, getting a 10,000 calorie drink,
With
and
six
then
cups of
everything
sugar in
else.
it.
Yeah, and then so if you really want to go after things that are bad, but the problem is that a lot of these industries have, big lobbying, and that's probably one of the biggest problems that we have in our industry,
Yep.
in our government, and
Yep.
overall. And so there's really big issues at hand that need to be taken care of, not tobacco, in my opinion, because the number one drug out there in the country is sugar. And I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah,
Um,
and sugar actually could lead into alcohol, because sugar makes alcohol. Being drunk is
um,
effectively a no, but I'm saying though, like
no, I mean, health wise, I think, ultimately at the end of the day, sugars and everything is
it
excessively,
is.
and
It's too much.
it affects younger people, and then it creates these problems that could be treated by not having it as much as we have it. That people take pills for
Hmm.
diabetes when the problem is that essentially sugar is what brought you to diabetes, but no one wants to talk about that.
There's been
So
more type 2 diagnosis in the last decade. I'm pretty sure if I might be regurgitating the stat wrong. There's been more type 2 diabetes diagnosis in the last decade than in the last 50 years
that's very
previous.
true. And if you look at the ages, it's scary when it comes down to how many kids are getting type 2.
It's teenagers is the fastest growing population of type 2.
Yeah, I mean, we all grew up with frosted flakes and
Whoa,
tons of
whoa,
sugar, and
whoa, whoa.
we don't,
Let's not dog
it's,
frosted flakes though. No, I'm just
come
kidding.
on, man.
I'm just kidding. I don't like frosted flakes. It's gross.
I'm just saying it's an example. It's freaking covered with
Hmm.
sugar. I mean, well,
Hmm.
look, let's. I think we the point that I'm trying to make is that if they really wanted to make an example, I
Yes.
think we're still paying for the issues of the past
Yes.
with big tobacco, and our
Hmm.
industry's very kosher. Not kosher. What's the word? Small. Oh man, the word just left my brain. The point that I'm
Boutique.
trying to make is that, yeah, boutique, and there's another word, but anyway, point being, for lack of a better word, is it's a very small industry that it's more of an adult industry. Uh, we could see that at the retail level, at the gatherings, everywhere. It's for adults, and it's not addicting. To be honest, I don't
Mm-mm.
need. I don't have to carry a vape pen because I can't smoke a cigar in a plane. I could do without for a few hours.
Couple
So
weeks.
it's yeah,
And that's the beauty of cigars over cigarettes, right? Because you don't get the additives, you don't get the spray on the chemicals, and that's why, again, I this is exactly why government's always going to be the biggest pain in the ass. Because every single time we start enjoying our life, government wants to stop it. And that's just my opinion. That's take it here, believe it or not. But well, George, boy, this was a fun show. This was very informative. We touched on a lot of topics. This is why I love having this show, is because I I'm able to, and everybody that comes on indulges me, but we're able to talk about so many different topics outside of but still pertaining to this world of cigars that we love. And I love the fact that you're always willing to come on, and you were the first
yeah.
person
No,
that
I
ever had
appreciate
interviewed
it.
on this show. I just got to say, and I
Well, I'm
love and
glad that I'm back on. Thank you.
oh yeah, I love that you're a partner with the show. I love that you believe in the show as much as you do, and it's been on now a little over 5 years now. I can't believe it.
Wow.
And you know, and I'll never forget that very first interview I did with you with the fire pit right here, glowing. I'm sitting here shivering in the middle of February, asking
I
you
remember.
questions on my iPad. Man, gosh, like things have changed so much. So from the bottom of my heart, brother, appreciate all the support you do and
Anytime.
all the
Thank you.
great cigars you make. Thank you so much. I'm looking so forward to trying the 5 by 36. What was it?
Lanyap.
What's the size?
Oh, it's a 5 by 36.
Five
Yes.
by 36. Fantastic. And giving those away for the 200th episode. Thank you so much for being willing to do that.
Of
And
course.
for everybody watching tonight, thank you so much for joining another live episode of the Rocky Mountain Cigar Show here in the Smokin' Studios. And until we see you again, smoke what you like. Smoke as many fucking Gran Habanos as you can. Have a great